32 years ago, something happened in this country, and its traces are still visible today. In 1994, the United States hosted a World Cup for the first time in its history. Our elders watched in amazement because until then, the vast majority of the country was unaware of the existence of something called football. Now, as the calendar shows these days, our country is once again vying to host. But this time it's not 1994, so we are hosting it on a much bigger, much louder, and much more expensive scale. Let's go back 32 years first, because to understand today, we have to understand that period well. Before 1994, when you said football in this country, no one thought of a sport played with the feet. Because in their lives, there was baseball, American football, and ice hockey, but football was almost non-existent. Then FIFA came to our country and made a deal with us, saying, "You give us your stadiums, and we'll bring the world to you." And they did what they said. Matches in that tournament were played in 9 cities. A total of 3.6 million spectators entered the stadiums for 52 matches, and the world record has still not been broken to this day. What's more interesting than the numbers is that in our country, which is not a football nation but rather a country that has just discovered football, the matches were watched by an average of 69,000 spectators. Okay, but how did this happen? Well, you give a like. Let me start explaining. It's very simple. Our country presented football not as a sports organization, but as a product of the entertainment industry. Of course, we couldn't say no to that. James Brown and Smokey Robinson took the stage at that unforgettable draw ceremony held in Vegas, and 500 million people watched that night. Almost twice the population of the country watched, an incredible number in my opinion. 15. As a result, the 1994 tournament was not just a sporting event in this country, but a true R. As a result, the 1994 tournament was not just a sporting event in this country, but a true rebirth of football. FIFA must have been incredibly proud. And the most tangible result of that era would be the establishment of Major League Soccer in 1996. FIFA, of course, wouldn't do anything unconditionally, so when they gave us the right to host, they set a condition. We had to establish a professional league in the country. That league was founded with 10 teams back then, and today it has reached 30 clubs. So, which is your favorite team? Let's discuss in the comments. The league had now reached world standards. The most obvious indication of this was David Beckham's arrival in our league in 2007 and Lionel Messi's in 2023. MLS was now a different place. Of course, the biggest factor in the development of this league was the fans, because today, according to Ampere analysis data, soccer has risen to become the 3rd most watched sport in America, surpassing baseball. You might be surprised by this, but we haven't gotten to the truly shocking part yet. Let's fast forward to the present and look at the real scale. This tournament holds many firsts in history. The first time a 48-team World Cup, the first time 104 matches, and the first time a World Cup is co-hosted by 3 countries. The United States, Canada, and Mexico. These 3 countries in the Northern Hemisphere will be the center of soccer this summer. But our home country stands out by far in the numbers because 78 of the 104 matches will be played in the United States. According to a joint report by FIFA and the World Trade Organization, the tournament will attract 6.5 million visitors and generate a global economic impact of $41 billion. Ticket prices already prove this. Everyone is complaining. But if we look specifically at our country, the expected figure is a gross domestic product impact of $17.2 billion, $3.4 billion in tax revenue, and 185,000 new jobs. So we'll be flooded with money. Joking aside, time will tell if these figures are accurate, but I don't think there's any need to discuss their magnitude. When we go down to the cities, the picture becomes even clearer. Arlington in the Dallas area will be the city hosting the most games, and the expected economic impact for this city is between $1.50 and $2.1 billion. Kansas City anticipates $653 million for 6 games. In Los Angeles, an average spending of $2,350 per foreign visitor is expected. In the New York area, the final will be played at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, and the city expects an income of $600 million. These earnings are no joke. They're just the expected estimated impact. But I think we're in the age of consumption, so earnings will be above these figures. Now for the good news. America has a huge infrastructure advantage in this tournament. The system is already in place. Remember Qatar, they spent $220 billion for the 2022 World Cup, but their earnings were only $17 billion. But they have oil, so they have plenty of money. America, on the other hand, is using existing NFL and MLS stadiums, so their total infrastructure spending is only around $500 million. So compared to what other countries spend, it's just pocket money. However, we shouldn't just focus on the impressive numbers. Independent economists say that the economic expectations of large organizations can actually remain between 30 and 40%. But I think this time it won't be like that. Still, let's look at their opinions. According to the Tourism Economics Report, the number of international visitors to America is projected to be 1.4 million. Also, foreign visitors often fill the gap left by already arriving domestic tourists, rather than creating new tourism revenue. Looking at early 2026 data, the number of international visitors to the US has decreased by 5.2% compared to the previous year, and transatlantic flight bookings are 14% lower compared to 2025. The problems behind this can be briefly summarized as visas, political tensions, and general economic uncertainty. I will make a video where I address these issues further, so stay tuned. Now let's talk about the other two countries. Mexico has done what no other country has done and is hosting this World Cup for the third time. The Azteca Stadium will also become the only stadium to host 3 tournaments. The economic expectation for Mexico is a tourism revenue of over 200 billion pesos. But Mexico's real strategy goes far beyond short-term revenue. It wants to use the tournament as a platform to introduce lesser-known tourist destinations to the world. I don't know if all this showmanship was necessary. Just open an Instagram page and promote your country from there. It's that simple. By directing fans to beach resorts, cultural routes, and historical towns in addition to the matches, they aim to convert short-term visitors into long-term repeat visitors. Of course, it is still unclear how much the cartel violence that has shaken the media in recent months will affect tourism. The younger brother, Canada, is experiencing a completely different story in this tournament. According to a report prepared by Deloitte for FIFA, the tournament will generate 3.8 billion Canadian dollars in economic output for Canada and create 24,100 new jobs. But for Canada, the real issue isn't money. In this country, football has historically always been a secondary sport. People's real pleasure is ice hockey. Therefore, these matches played in Toronto and Vancouver be a spark that ignites a new generation of football, just like in our country. Now let's get on the pitch because the tournament isn't just about the economy. There's also the championship aspect. The American national team enters 2026 under the management of Mauricio Pochettino. The high pressure and vertical speed that Pochettino brought from his time at Tottenham and Paris Saint-Germain have been placed at the core of the team's playing philosophy. Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, and Giovanni Reina are no longer promising names. They are experienced professionals accustomed to the harsh climate of European football, where players are seen as gladiators. A journey for this team to the quarterfinals and beyond could transform football from a lifestyle into a national passion in this country. Who knows, maybe we'll win the championship. After all, Americans love the winner. It's in the nature of the sport. If we become champions, as I said, we already saw what would happen in 1994. In 1994, football was televised in this country and children ran onto the pitch. Youth soccer records climbed in the 1990s and exceeded 4 million in 2010. The 2022 Qatar World Cup attracted an average of 4.7 million viewers per game in America. Now, it's exciting to even think where that number will go when the tournament is played on this soil. Infantino is currently trying to present each of the 100 for games like a Super Bowl. The group matches are of course not the Super Bowl, but the final will have a global impact several times greater than the Super Bowl. I'm taking a short break from the video right now because I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe to the channel for support. Let's continue. A single minute of the 2020 final attracted 1.5 billion viewers and absorbed 5% of global internet traffic in that minute. Now let's step back a bit and look at the big picture and wrap things up. What does this tournament represent for America? In 1994, this country discovered football. In 2026, football will rediscover this country. But this time, there's a much bigger stage. Digital media, AI-powered broadcasts, and unpredictable ticket prices. The cheapest final ticket had reached the $20,000 range at the time of writing. Finding one now while you're watching would be a dream. FIFA's dynamic pricing system has caused ticket prices to skyrocket as interest in the tournament has grown. This also brings an accessibility problem. Billions of people are watching on screens while fewer and fewer can enter the stadium. But for America, this is also a moment of soft power. Fans from 75 countries around the world will come to this land and get to know American cities, culture, and service industry up close. The value of this in terms of tourism and image cannot be measured by any advertising campaign. And it must also be said, the experience gained from every match played in this tournament will put this country's name on the table for the 2030 FIFA World Cup. Big events teach you how to win, and in 2026 we are learning both how to win and how to organize. Despite all the warnings from independent economists, this tournament seems profitable for America because the infrastructure is already there, the stadiums are already standing, and the seed planted 32 years ago is now bearing fruit. U.S. Soccer Forward Foundation invested over $16 million in disadvantaged communities and women's soccer before the tournament. If MLS was born in 1994, perhaps the next transformation will begin in 2026, perhaps after this year. As in many things, they will hold us up as an example in soccer. Perhaps a soccer ecosystem spreading to more cities, perhaps a stronger youth infrastructure, perhaps clubs that can compete on an international scale will emerge. No one can know for sure, but history has taught us one thing. Just work hard and success will come to you. That's why the summer of 2026 will leave indelible marks not only on the green pitch, but also on economies, cities, culture, and memories. So what's your opinion on this? Will we suffer losses or will we profit? And we will most likely only fully understand how deep these marks will be years from now. Just like the legacy of 1994 stands before us today as MLS, hundreds of thousands of young footballers, and a growing football culture. Now North America is taking center stage in the world, and our country is at the heart of this stage. And football is rewriting itself once again in this country.